So now we're going to learn is the number types of arrays. So there are two types of arrays, single dimensional array and multi-dimensional array. What does this single dimensional array and multi-dimensional array, will get into it and understand better. So single dimensional array has only one dimension. So this can be through rows or as columns. So you see array is there defined, its indexes are there and addresses are going to be there. So 6, 8, 4. So this array is of integer type, you can see, and its index start from 0. That's, we already know that array index start from 0. So if there are 5 elements, so the last index will be 4. So this is how 4 it's written. So array address, index is there, address is also there, because when we store in an RAM, so that is going to give some address. So those address are getting incremented by 4 bytes because this array is of integer type. So integer take 4 bytes, that's it. That's why it's incrementing by 4 bytes. So if it is of character, then it could have been increased by 1, right? Similarly for double, it would have been double, then it could have increased the address by 8 bytes. So this is what the single dimensional array is. Now we're going to talk about the multi-dimensional array. So multi-dimensional array is also known as rectangular array, which has more than one dimensions. So it can be 2D array, 3D array, 4D array, and so on. So it's, you're going to learn through that. It can be you can consider as rows and columns of it, and if it is 3 dimension, rows, columns, and height. So those each and everything we're going to see in the VS Code, and we're going to take examples on this. So let's jump to VS Code and see each one by one with examples. So we already talked about one dimensional array in the previous examples. Now we're going to talk more about it. So we're going to directly initialize it, we're going to access it, everything we're going to do, and we're going to do one problem using functions and all also. So let's do it. So I'll create one more file and we'll name it as 47. This is our 47th program, and I'll write array, single dimensional array, single dimensional .c. All right, what I'll write the header file first, hash include stdio.h, and I'll write the main function int main. After writing the main function, I'll write the return 0 at the last. All right, so this much is done. So I'll declare one array that is naming as n, and let size be 5. So I'll initialize the value with something, so it's written in curly brackets. We didn't use this, we have saw in the syntaxes, but we didn't use it. Right now we're going to use it. Let's give some value. Let's say 43, 56, 78, 98, 45. So these are the 5 values we have entered. So these are the values that are stored in this array, right? Now we're going to print it. So either we can print in the for loop, or we can write printf that many times. So generally we'll write it in for loop, but for now, at the initial phase of the programming, we're going to write it in iterative way. So we're going to write this n equals to 0. We'll do the hard work and we'll write this way, and I'll write it 5 times. Printf statement, right? This is how we're going to write 5 times, and we're going to change the indexes. So this is how it is going to be printed. So here I'll write 2, here I'll write 3, and I'll write 4. So this, if I don't want to write this many times, then I have to use for loop and I have to write that way. I'll hit Ctrl S, I'll click it here, and I'll clear this terminal first. Okay, now I'll right click here, run the code, and if you see, all the elements should print. So it is printing in same, so it's looking very different number, but actually we are printing whatever we want. I'll give some space to it. Let's give some space between each numbers. All right, so if I give space here, so it is going to give some space to that. I'll hit Ctrl S, I'll right click, run the code. Now if you see 34, 56, 78, 98, 45, it is printing. So this is what one dimensional array is. Now we already did with the for loop. I'll show it to you again using for loop. So I'll write 48 and single dimensional 1.c. so you're going to do using for loops hash include, we're going to do it fast, stdio.h and int main I'm going to write, and I'm going to come out of it, I'll write return 0 at the last. So you already did, so that's why I'm doing it bit fast. So let's declare a variable int a and let's its size to be 5. All right, so this is what declaration of that array. So we're going to take input from the user in a for loop and we're going to print it in a for loop, right? So what I'll do is I'm going to write the print statement. So I'll write printf, and here I'm going to write it in, I'll say enter the array elements. All right, and at the last I will give semicolon, and here I'm going to write the for loop, and in the for loop I'm going to take everything. So integer I will declare one variable, that is I equals to 0, I less than 5 and I plus plus. This is what updation. Inside this for loop we're going to take input from the user. So I'll write scanf for that, and after writing scanf I'll write %d, that is for the integer. This is a for the integer we write %d and control sequence basically. And what is the array name? Array name is a and input is going to be in I. So this is how it is going to be written. Now after coming out of this for loop I'm going to write one more printf statement here, and I'm going to say that entered elements are and is going to print entered elements. Here I'm going to write the for loop. For accessing the elements I have to write int j equals to 0, let's say, and j less than 5 and j plus plus. I'm going to update it. Now inside this for loop we have to write the print statement, because we want to print whatever the elements we have entered from the user. So what I'll do is I'll write %d, and after that I'll come out of it, I'll give some space, otherwise it will come together, and here I'll write array of I. It is going to print all the elements. I'll hit Ctrl S. Now everything is we have written, right? So I'll clear the terminal first. I cleared it. Now one thing to notice is here we don't have to use I, here we'll be using j because we have taken j as the variable. So I'll hit Ctrl S. Now I'll right click here and run the code. So after running the code, is asking for the numbers to enter. Let's enter 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So these are the elements. Let's enter. I'll hit enter. Then it is printing entered elements are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, because this is printing in that. So this is what one dimensional array, we give the elements and we print it. So this is how it is done. So it can be done in many ways. Now we want to write a program. So we'll take a problem statement. I'll write it 49, single dimension dot, let's say 3.c. all right. So here I want to take one problem statement. I'll write create an integer array with size 5 and then calculate the larger element of that array using function. So this is our problem statement. Let's take it to the next line so that it's more visible. So this is our problem statement, right? So we already learned functions, right? So here we'll do this, how it is to be done. So I'll write hash include and I'll write stdio.h, and I'll write before writing the main function here, what we'll do is we'll write that maximum function. So I'll write the integer type of the function. I'll write max as the function name, and I'll pass array in it. So this is going to learn passing array in a function. This is that example also I'm covering here. So int array, this is passing array in a function, you can see. So I'll pass the array here, like whatever the array we're going to give there, and we're going to find the maximum element out of that array. So I'll give one more variable, that is going to be size. Why I'm taking size, you're going to get it in the further paths. So here what I'll write, I'll declare int, let's say one variable r I'm declaring. Why I'm taking, you'll understand, because we're going to store it in this r. So for that what I'll write is let's r equals to array of 0. So we are storing array 0 value in the r of, we are considering that this is the maximum element. So now we're going to write what? We're going to write a for loop, and inside that for loop what we're going to do is I'm going to declare one variable I equals to not 0 as 1, right? What I'll do, I'll write I less than size and I plus plus. So we are considering array 0th element to be stored in we have stored array of 0 value into the r. Why we have stored, you'll understand. So after this, in the for loop, what we'll do, we'll run a if statement, and in that if statement what we'll write is array of I is greater than r. If array of I is greater than of r, then we'll replace the value with the r. Like we'll replace array of I value to r, array of I. We are finding the maximum value. So we considered array 0th element to be the largest element. After that what we did, we written a if statement if array of I is greater than r. If it is not, then array of 0 is the greatest element, right? If it is array of I is greater than r, then what we'll do, we'll replace array of I with r value. So this is what finding the greatest element, and at the last we'll return the value of what? We'll return value r. Here we are getting r as a maximum value, right? This is what we are getting from it. We'll return r. So I'll write main function now, int main, and in this main function what I'll write is, at the last I'll write return 0, because the execution of the code it will show correctly, so that's why I have to write that. So I'll write int array of, let's say size to be 5. So this is an array, we declared an array of size to be 5, and let's say we're going to give input from our side. So what I'll write is I'll write printf statement first, one printf, and in this printf what I'll write is enter the elements in an array. Alright, this is we are asking from the user. So if you are asking from the user, then I'll write a for loop, and inside that for loop I'll write int I equals to 0. From 0 the index it will start, and I less than 5 I'm going to write, and I plus plus I'm going to write it. Now here what I'll do, I'll write this, we'll take the input from the user. So I'll write scanf, and in the scanf I'll write %d. I'm going to take input from the user, and ampersand of array of I, because we are entering in the values in the array, so that's why array of I. Alright, now I'm going to declare one variable, and let's that variable be int m, and in that we're going to call the max function. So max function will be calling, and it will be returning r, that will be stored in m, then we're going to print that m. So this is the basic steps of it. So what is the argument we're going to pass? We're going to pass argument as array. So arr is going to be passed, and what is the size of it? Size is 5. All right, this is how it is going to be passed. All right, now this is what calling of function. This is what calling of max function. So this is going to call the function, and the logic is going to be executed, and then going to return r, and that r value is going to be stored in m, and after it is stored in m, we need to print it also. So I have to write one printf, and in that printf what I'll do is, here I'll write the largest element in an array is, what is that largest element to be? Is going to be percentage d, that value, right? So, and that value is going to be what? That is stored in m. So it is going to print the value. All right, the last I'll write semicolon, and this is how it's going to be done. Now one thing, that we don't have to write this everything in the for loop, right? So we have to write outside this for loop. Now I'll hit Ctrl S, I'll click here, I'll clear it out first, and I'll right click here and run the code. Now it is showing some error to us. What is that error? In the for loop it is showing some error in line number 20. Okay, I didn't use the semicolon here, you can see, right? So I have to use semicolon. Now I hit Ctrl S, right click here, run the code. Ctrl S, I'll clear it out first, run the code. Still there is some error in the line number 20. What is that error? We need to find it out. Okay, we have used, like, this is extra there, right? I'll hit Ctrl S now, I'll right click, run the code. Okay, now it is asking for the numbers to be entered. Let's enter 5 values randomly: 45, 67, 34, 56, 78 and 98. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 6 elements I have entered. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are the 5 elements we have entered, right? Among this, which is the greatest? 78. The largest element, so it should print the largest element in an array is 78. That should be our result. So let's hit enter and see. Yes, the largest element in an array is 78. It is showing. So we got our result from there. So this is how it's going to be done. This is what single dimensional array means, everything, So now after this, we're going to see examples of two-dimensional array. So in two-dimensional array, there will be 2 dimensions, how we're going to write it and everything. We're going to see how to declare that array, multi-dimensional, basically how to declare that multi-dimensional array, how to declare 3-dimensional array, and all those stuffs we're going to see one by one. So functions in an array, passing function in an array, we already saw that. Passing array in that function, that is, we always are going to talk about this thing also. So now we're going to see multi-dimensional array. In multi-dimensional array, 2D array will be coming out, 3D array will be coming out, and everything. So let's jump and see that. I'll create 50 multi-dimension.c. So here what we'll do, here we'll write the two-dimensional array, how to write it and how to access through the from the functions. We go to see it directly from here, right? So let's do an one coding problem on that, and we'll understand better. And first thing we're going to write is hash include an stdio.h, and I'm going to write one function for that. Let's write one function, void, and that function's name to be arr, and we are going to pass integer, that array we're going to pass, and let's say 3 we are passing as a value. So it's completely fine if you don't write it already, it will take the values, what is the size of it. So I'll write two for loops for this because it's a two-dimensional array. So I'll write two for loops for, and I'll write int. So I and j, that basics thing we're going to take, I equals to 0, I less than equals to 1, I'm going to write, and what you're going to write is I plus plus. Okay, so the number of rows is going to be 1 and number of columns is going to be j. So again I'll write for loop, and inside this for loop what I'll write, int j equals to 0, and I'll write I, not I, here will be j less than equals to, it will be 3, not 3, 2, because size is 3, so till 2 it will be there, because 0 is there, 0 1 2, right? And I'll write j plus plus. And what do we need to print inside? This is two-dimensional array, that's why you're using two for loop. So in the function we are writing that. So here I'll write one printf, and in the printf what I'm going to write is that %d, and I'm going to write that x of x is the, that is the array, right, that we have passed. So x of I and j, it is going to be printed. All right, now this is what this is the end of, this is end of inner loop, and when we come out of this loop, this is the end of outer loop. So here for ending the outer loop I'll be using one printf, and what I'll be writing here is percentage, I'll give some enter value here, so it will enter to the next line. All right, this is done. This is the void function we have done, we're done with it. Now we're going to write the main function. So in int main function, and in the main function what we're going to write is we're going to define everything. So I'll write return 0 at the last. All right, now here we're going to write the everything. So let's declare integer a, array a, and let's give the size to be 2, and let's give size to be 3, and initialize with value. So it's 2 rows are there, that's why you're going to write, let's say 1 2 3, and by comma we're going to write it 4 5 6. This you can consider it as row, and this you can consider as column. So you can see it's written in blue brackets, it's a row, 2 rows are there and 3 columns, 1 2 3 4 5 6. So these are the 2 columns you can see. So it's an integer type. All right, so this is how it is written. So you can write in one direct way also, like I'll show you what I mean by that. If I declare one empty array to be a, b to be this, and 2, size is 2 and size is 3, and if I initialize, I can directly write it this way also, 1 2 3 4 5 6. So this, it can be written this way also. All right, now this will print the values. So let's write printf statement, and here we'll say values in array a by row, and that is going to be print the values of array in row in the array a, right? So this is how it's going to be printed. Now here we have to call the array function. We have written the function array as array function, right? So this is calling of that function, so we are reusing this function again and again. All right, now I'll copy this out, Control C, and I'll paste it here again. And for array b, we're going to use this function again, and I will call this function using by the parameter b. So it is going to be printed that way. Alright, now I'll click here and I'll clear the terminal and then hit Ctrl S first, right click here, run the code, and if you see, those elements are getting printed 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6, because we are printing 2 rows are there. For this 2 rows are there and 3 columns. So here we didn't define anything, so here we pass 3 and here we didn't define anything. So if you don't write anything here, I'll hit Ctrl S, I'll right click here, run the code. So it will be showing you error, because you have to pass how many elements is going to be there. So you have to write 3 here. Alright, hit Ctrl S, I'll click it here and clear it out. So this is what 2-dimensional array. If 3-dimensional array would have defined, then there would have been one more for loop inside this. So we're going to see that thing also, how a 3-dimensional array is going to be defined. So 3-dimensional array means what? That 3 for loops we will be using. So you have to write one more, this is 2-dimensional array examples. You have to write one more for loop. Okay, you guys can try it. You have to write one more for loop, and this print statement will be there in that for loop. Alright, so that is what 3-dimensional array is. Alright, hit Ctrl S. So we'll write the number of rows also. We'll write the number of rows to be 2 and it to be 3. So after that it's going to be happen. So you can try with the 3-dimensional array also. Now we're going to jump to the next topics. What other topics are there? Alright. So now next we're going to learn is the array traversals, insertion, deletion in an array in C. So we already saw array traversals. It means we have already printed the elements in an array. We know, right? So similarly, now next thing you're going to learn is traversals in an array. First you're going to see insertion. Suppose you want to insert an element inside, like between this 6 and 8. So what I have to do is you have to shift all the elements to the right. So we'll start from here at the last position and we'll just shift this element to the one position right side of this. So this is how we're going to do it. So for that, what you have to do is we're going to shift this element one by one. So we are making empty spaces here. So we are shifting one shifting, then we are entering here. So this is what insertion in an array. So this is the array you have taken from the last position, I minus. You have see array of I, int I equals to size we have taken, because initializing from this last value. So we're going to shift this element to the right side first. So this is what shifting is. Array of I equals to array of I minus 1. Array of I means if array of I is 4, array of I minus 1 is 3. So this 9 value is going to be assigned to this 5, right? So this 5 value is going to be assigned to the next element. This is how shifting to the right side. And at the last, where we want to insert the element, that is element equals to array of position. So suppose I want to insert here 6, like let's say 7. So 7 will be given to array of position. So here it will be entered, right? So this is how shifting of elements to the right side. This is what insertion of element in an array. So this is we're going to see in the VS Code what does how to do it with the code. Now we're going to see deletion in an array. So this I already talked about. If you want to insert an index to some value, then we have to shift it to the right side one by one. So here we are initializing with I equals to size at the last position, because we have to shift from here, because in array we know all the elements are continuous, right? So we have to shift from the last element. So after shifting to the right side, we'll enter the element in the which position we want to enter. All right, now next thing we're going to learn about is deletion in an array. So deletion is what? Removing an element in an array. So if you see 5, 10, 59, 8 and 4 are the elements in an array. Suppose you want to delete any element from it. So what do you have to do? So for that we have to shift to the right side. So let's say we want to delete 59 from here. So what I have to do? We have to assign this 8 value to this positions. Basically we are not deleting it, we are just assigning the value to the previous number. So here you see array of I plus 1 value assigned to array of I. If this is array of I is what 2, then array of I plus 1 is 3. 2 plus 1 3, right? So 8 value will be assigned to 59. So this is what it is saying by this line. So 8 will be assigned to to 59. 4 will be assigned to 8, right? So 8 will be shifting here, 4 it will be incoming here, this will be empty, last index will be empty, and 59 will get vanished. This is what deletion in an array means. So we're going to see these things in VS Code. What does this mean? Now we're going to see the next thing, that is array in details. Like we already saw multi-dimensional array. That see, suppose multi-dimensional array that simply form multi-dimensional and two-dimensional arrays. We already talked about two-dimensional array. For 3D arrays, I said 3 for loops, 4D arrays, 4 for loop. 2D array, 2 for loop will be using, that we already talked about. So pointers to an array, we're going to talk about this, because next topic we're going to learn is pointer only. So we're going to talk about that. So passing array to a function, I already talked about, and returning array from a function, this I'll take one more example, then I understand better. So passing array to a function, I already showed you one example in the single dimensional array. Now we'll jump to the VS Code and we'll understand the insertion and deletion in an array, and after we'll move with the topic pointer. So let's jump to the VS Code. Now we're going to see the insertion in an array first, then we'll jump to the deletion in an array. So I'll create one file and write it as 51 insertion and deletion. I don't have to give space, insertion.c. let's write this way. Like what I'll do before talking to insertion and deletion, these are the common operations we do in C for array. So in insertion in array, what I said, to insert element in an array, you need to do following steps, right? Create an array of specific size, choose the index where you want to insert the new element, shift the elements of the array to the right side of the index by one position, and at the last insert the element at the chosen index. So that is how we're going to write whatever I said, that is going to write in the coding format, right? So for that, what I'll do is I'll write #include and stdio.h, and what I'll do is I'll create a main function for that. So I've created the main function. This is the basic template for writing C program. I'll write return 0 because I have used integer type, so I have to return something, so I return 0. If I don't write return 0, it's completely fine, but you have to, like, writing return 0 in the main return type in the main function is recommended, because you will not forget if you create any user defined functions that type is integer or something, so you will write that thing there. All right, now I'll declare one variable integer array. Let's size to be 5. All right, I have given the array to be size 5, and let's give them some value to it. 1 2 3 4 5. So these are the values I have initialized it with the array. So these are the values I have given, and let's declare the size to be size is what? Size is 5. All right, now after that, let's say we want to insert the element at the index 2. We want to insert the element at index 2. Let's write int index equals to 2. All right, and the new element we want to enter, let's going to be that is element is new element is going to be, let's say, 6. We want to enter. All right, now we'll write the for loop and we'll write the logic, that logic we have written. So for loop, not for loop, I'm going to write, and I'm going to write int I equals to size, because we are going to start from the last and we're going to shift to the right side, and I is greater than index. I'm going to write. All right, and I'll write I minus minus. We're going to decrement from the last, right? So I minus minus, and inside this, what is the logic? Array of I is going to be array of I minus 1. Array of I minus 1 value is going to be assigned to array of I. Either we write this, or we can write array of I plus 1 and array of I. We can write this thing also, array of I plus 1. These are the same things you can understand, right? Array of I. So I minus, this is mathematical. I'm just playing with the mathematics, nothing else. All right, so this is the inside the for loop it will be written. Now we have to assign the value also, because after we get to the correct position, array of index value, what is that index? We want to enter value at the second position, right? So 2 value will be taken from here. In the index we'll be entering the new element. What is the new element? 6, right? So writing the new element here, and I'll increment the size plus. All right, this will increment the size of it. So let's, instead of writing 5, let's give some value, let's say 100. Like I'll leave it there. Okay, like nothing, no values will be, the garbage value will be will be there. So let's write it this way. Okay, so now what I will be writing is, I'll be writing one more for loop for printing what are the elements we have taken there. So I'll write int I equals to 0, I is going to be less than size, and I plus plus, and here we're going to print the elements, whatever the elements there in the array. So how to print? We'll write the print this, and we're going to write it percentage d. I'm going to give some space between the numbers, and array of I am going to write it. All right, this is done. Now if I hit Ctrl S, I'll right click here, run the code, and we'll see the array 1 2 6 3 4 5. Now initially array was 1 2 3 4 5. Now the array is 1 2 6 3 4 5. Why 6 we want to enter in the index 2. So 0 1 2, it means at the third position we want to enter 6. So you see 6 is entered the third position, because in array start from 0th index, that's why it's in the 6 is here, right? This is what insertion in an array. Now you can insert, you change the position from insert index to 0 1 2 3 4 at the last. Wherever you want to enter, you can do that, and that will change, that will enter the value there. So this is what insertion and element at, in an array. Now we're going to see the deletion in an array. So to delete element from an array, you need to do certain steps that we already talked about. What are those steps? Choose the index of the element you want to delete, where you want to delete it, right? Shift the existing elements to the left side of the of the index by 1 position, and decrement the size of the array. That is what we're going to do. So for that, let's create one more file and name it as 52 and write deletion.c. all right, we'll write the header file hash include iostream, sorry, not iostream, that this is not C++, stdio.h. all right, so here I'll write the main function int main, and in the main function what I'll write is, at the last I'll write return 0. all right, this is done. Okay, now I'll declare the array. Let's give array size to be 100. We will not initialize with that much of value. Let's give 1 2 3 4 5. Let's say 5 elements are there, and we'll declare one size till size 5. Let's declare that we are declaring that till size 5. all right, now index, suppose I want to delete the element from second index, means we want to delete the element 3 from here. So how to delete it? So we have to shift the elements to the right, left side first, right? So I'll write the for loop, and I will iterate to that position and will shift it. So before that, I'll write I equals to index. From index we'll be starting I less than size minus 1 will be coming from there, and I'll write I plus plus. all right, here what is the that logic? Array of I is going to assign from array of I plus 1. So this can be again written in different format. Array of I minus 1 equals to array of I. You can write that thing also. That is completely fine. Just playing with mathematics, nothing else. all right, this is the shifting done. Now we have to decrement the size. Shifting is done. Now we have to decrement the size. I have decremented the size. Now after decrement the size, I have to print the array also. So for printing the array, I'll write int I equals to 0, I less than size I'm going to write, and what I'm going to write is I'm going to update the I, and here we're going to print what? Print the whatever the elements in that array, right? So I printf percentage d I'm going to use, I'm going to give some space to it, and I'm going to write what? Array of I, whatever the elements are there in the array I'm going to print it, and at the end I'll give semicolon. I'll hit Ctrl S, I'll right click here, run the code, and if you see 1 2 4 5 is getting printed. 1 2 4 5, 3 value we are deleting it. If I change from 2 to let's say 1, it means index 1 is 0 1, it means 2 is going to be deleted, so the result will be 1 3 4 5. I'll hit Ctrl S, I'll run the code, and you'll see 1 3 4 5 it is printing. So this is how insertion and deletion in an array. This is the end of it, like insertion and deletion in array if you want to check. So this is all about insertion and deletion in array. So passing function, array in a function we already saw. I have already taken one example of that, like passing function in an array. Now let's take one more passing that array in a function. Now after that we'll be seeing passing array using pointer to a function. See, that is also going to see. So let's see the first example, that passing function in an array. All right, for that I'll create another file and write 53, and I'll write passing array dot c. So we're going to see passing array in a function and passing pointer in a function, that passing array using pointer to a function. We're going to see that thing also. First simple example we're going to see, that is hash include. I'll write the header file and stdio.h. all right, so here I'm going to write the function name. So void, let's say print array as a function name I'm writing. All right, this is I have written. Now let's pass, what will be passing here? Will be passing the array. So here we will be passing array int arr, and after passing this I'll write int size. All right, after this we're going to write printf statement, that this is what we will give some output there, so you'll understand in the console, right? Array elements are, so array elements is going to be array elements, right? And I'll give semicolon here, and in the for loop I'm going to write int I equals to 0, I less than size, because size is that what you're taking, and I plus plus. So here what I'll write, I'll print the I'll use printf, and inside this I'm going to print the values. So percentage d comma, I'll give some space to it so that it doesn't come all along together, and I'll write array of I. Okay, so this much is done. Now from the main function we'll be calling, this is the scope of it whole, and this is the scope of array. Okay, I'll come out of the scope of the whole function. I'll write the int main function here, and in the main function at the last I'll write return 0. All right, now going up, here we'll be declaring the function arr of 5, let's say size is 5, and we'll call the print function. So print array function, and we'll be passing what are the arguments we have to pass? Array and size we can see in the print function. So here we'll pass array and comma, it will be 5, because size 5 is the size of the array. So this is how it's going to be written. All right, I'll hit Ctrl S. Now this is what passing array in a function. I'll click here, clear it out. I'll right click here, run the code. So some error is coming out here. So what is that error? No such file and directory, it's saying. Why it is saying that? Have we written? Yes, we have written the we have given some space in it, so what I have to do is, so this is not allowed. So I'll change the file name, I'll rename it, and rename it to I cannot have space. So here, so I'll remove the space and write array this way. Now I'll hit Ctrl S. Now I'll right click, run the code, and if you see, array elements are printing in this way because we didn't initialize with some values, so it is printing garbage values. So if you would have initialized with the value, let's say we have initialized with values, let's some values, 56, 45, 78, 97, one more value, right, 45. So if these are the values are there, I'll hit Ctrl S. These are the elements it's printed because these are the garbage value because we didn't initialize with the array. Now we have initialized with some values, so it will print that value. I'll right click, run the code, and you see these elements are getting printed. So this is how it is done. Now we're going to see that passing pointers to a function in C. So how to do that, we're going to see that thing. So here I'll write program will be 54 passing pointer. So we're going to learn about pointer in detail. In the next topic is going to be pointer only. Still I'll take one small example, hash include. I'll write the header file stdio.h and I'll write the int main function, and in the main function I'll take this, and at the last I'll write return 0. Alright, so this much is clear. Alright, now what I'll do is, this is the main function is created. I'll create one more same function, void print array function, and in print array we'll be passing the pointer int star arr. Array will be passing, and will be passing what, int size. So this is how we pass the pointer in an function, right? So here I'll write simple printf, and in that printf what I'll be writing is array elements are, so array elements is going to become here, and we're going to write a for loop, and inside that for loop we're going to write int I equals to 0 semicolon, I is going to be less than size, and this is the basic steps, right, and I plus plus. So here we're going to write the logic. What is the logic? That we want to print the array elements. So I'll write in printf, and inside this I'm going to give %d, and I'll give some space to it so that it doesn't come together simultaneously, and I'll write array of I to it. Okay, so after writing this, we're going to commit to the main function, and we're going to call the function. So I'll write int array of 5. I will initialize with some value, otherwise it will print the garbage value. In the previous example we already saw that. So let's initialize with 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. These are the elements are initialized with it, and we'll call that function. So what is that function? Print array, and we'll call this function int array comma 5. These are the arguments we are passing into it, right? I'll hit Ctrl S, I'll click it here, I'll clear it out first. Again, one mistake we did, we have given the space, that's why it's showing in the red. So I'll rename it, and passing pointers I'll be writing p this way. Now this is completely fine. Hit Ctrl S, I'll right click here, run the code. So it is showing error. What is that error? We have to find it out. I is less than size. Here I have to use semicolon. Alright, now hit Ctrl S, I'll click it here, I'll clear it out first, and right click and run the code. So array elements are printing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can see, because this is what passing pointer to an function. So we're going to see next things, we're going to learn about pointer only in very detail, that what are those pointers, what are these types, and everything we're going to learn one by one. So thank you for that. We'll jump to it and see what are pointers and all.